So the iPhone 17 Pro's camera is one of the best smartphone cameras ever to exist, and phone cameras are so good that they're pretty much indistinguishable from pro level cameras. But the main difference between this and a pro level camera isn't the image quality anymore, it's actually how we take those photos or videos. And on a phone, it's just not ergonomically designed at all. We all do this really weird and awkward grip, and it just doesn't really feel comfortable for a long period of time. But that can now be a thing of the past. Let me introduce you to the Sandmarc Creator Grip. This thing is built like a tank, as it's been fully made out of aluminium, and it's been machined to ergonomically fit our hands and feel like an actual camera. We have a Bluetooth shutter button on the top up here to control the camera. We can film in the landscape position, spin it to go into the portrait position, or even spin it all the way upside down so the cameras get nice and low. We've also got two cold shoe mounts, one on the top here and one down below down here to attach different attachments, and also underneath here we've also got a tripod mount. But the more I've been using this and testing it, a few things have really jumped out at me, which makes me think, is it actually worth it? As this Creator Grip costs a whopping $140, which is well over £100. So let's just start off with, why would you want one of these? Using a grip like this attached to our phones is just far more comfortable to use, and this extra bit of weight and grip really helps with the stability of our shots, especially if we're filming for long periods of time. Also, now this makes it super easy to change the angle of our phone to film portrait, landscape, or those underslung style shots. And no matter what angle we put the phone at, we can still hold onto that grip nice and solidly. And like I said, it is really well built and does feel very premium as it's fully made out of this aluminium, but you definitely will feel the weight of it, as it does weigh about 350 grams without your phone attached. And when we add our phone to it, that weight will jump up quite a lot, and with the iPhone 17 Pro Max, it goes up to 580 grams. So this thing definitely isn't light. And if you want to utilize those two cold shoe mounts by adding some attachments onto it, then that will add on even more weight. But one thing which might help slightly with the weight is the fact that they do supply a strap with this as well. So when we're not holding the phone and grip up to shoot, we can just let go of it, and that strap is really just going to help take some of the weight away from our hands. But personally, I've found that if I use this grip with the strap and I make it feel nice and secure in my hand and the straps along the back of my hand, then when I actually grip this grip, then the grip just feels slightly too small. For instance, there's nowhere for my thumb to sit, as it's just kind of floating around on top. And then to press the shutter button, I've kind of got to like get my index finger right up here, and then it just feels really awkward and I couldn't use it for a long period of time like this. To make it more comfortable, I feel like my hand needs to be right the way back, so my index finger can press the shutter button and my thumb can press on the back of the grip like you would on an actual camera, but then this strap just kind of sits along my fingers and it doesn't feel very secure. And for me, I feel like the grip may be slightly too small for my hand, and to make it nice and comfortable with my index finger in the right place, I've almost got to tuck my little finger underneath and press my thumb on the back of it. Also, if you've got the strap attached, then the clip for it actually protrudes the very end of the grip, which means that you'll have to take the clip off every time you want to attach this to a tripod. You could just not use their supplied strap and actually attach your own wrist strap. And attaching it up here means that it's still nice and secure around your wrist, and nothing protrudes the bottom of the grip, so we can now easily get it back onto a tripod. And one design choice I think they could implement here is to adjust the bottom of this grip to have an Arca-Swiss style fin, so we could just attach this directly to a tripod without the need of using a base plate. But back to the actual grip, it does feel nice in our hands as everything is nicely smoothed. But being fully made out of aluminium does mean that the grip can be pretty low, especially if we have wet or sweaty hands. And personally, I think I would have liked to have just seen a bit of texture on here or a bit of rubber wrapping around the side of this grip, just to make it feel a little less slippery. Also, I would have liked to have seen a slight ridge on the back of this grip for our thumb to sit onto, just like we see on a normal camera. Also, I was quite surprised to see that this grip comes with a hard shell case which we can store it in. We can even put the wrist strap in and keep the Allen key in here as well, which is a really nice touch. So let's now quickly talk about the Bluetooth shutter button, and before I talk about the workings of it, one thing I just wanted to point out was that mine is very, very rattly. Now, I've not noticed any other reviewer say that they have a rattly shutter button, so I don't know if that's just mine, which is a little bit frustrating, especially if we're going to be recording audio. When the grip is connected via Bluetooth to our phone, then the shutter button does one function, and that is we press it, it will take a photo. Or in video mode, if we press it, it will start the recording, or again, press it and it will stop the recording. It doesn't do anything else. And I'm so pleased to see that the shutter button also works in third-party camera apps like the Blackmagic camera app. By pressing it, it will start and stop the recording. And I have to admit that I am slightly disappointed that Sandmarc hasn't done anything else with that shutter button. It doesn't do any of the camera functionalities what we kind of would like to have seen. We've still got to use our phone to change the cameras, to change it from video into photo mode, to zoom, to do all of the camera functionalities, where a far cheaper phone grip like this Telesun one here, which is a third of the price of the Sandmarc one, has far more functionality. For instance, we can zoom, we can tap to focus, we can change the photo to the video mode, and also I can detach this and use this as a remote back to my phone, which is on or being used on this grip. Yes, this is made out of plastic and is not as well built as the Sandmarc one. This does far more than the Sandmarc one, which is far more expensive. That shouldn't be the case. And if we use the supplied Allen key and undo this bottom section here and pull out this very strange looking plug, we can just see that it's a 2032 cell battery. So I was just very surprised to see that there is no rechargeable battery, and we've just got this giant void inside of the grip, which I feel like is just wasted space. For me, this just seems like the perfect space to put a rechargeable battery or a little power bank so we could actually charge our phone whilst using the grip. But no, there's just this empty void inside of the grip. And we can even use the same supplied Allen key to tighten or loosen this section here, which I think is a really nice touch to be able to personalize the tension here, and if it ever loosens over time, then we can even tighten it up as well. But one thing I have noticed when we're spinning it around is that there is no hard stops anywhere, it just freely spins. So there is no ridge or indication to let us know if we're perfectly in the landscape or portrait position. And whilst we're talking about the swivel action, you might have noticed that when the phone is in this landscape position, then the actual grip here goes past where the actual charging port is for our phone. So if you want to plug in a Bluetooth receiver for a microphone, then this isn't actually going to be able to plug in. And if we slide our phone down to the point where we need to get into it, then the clamp actually presses down on the camera function on the top of the iPhone, but that does mean that we can now plug into it. It doesn't really matter if we're going to be in the portrait position, because then the port is going to be nice and clear down here, and we can't really have our phone the other way around like this, because then the cameras are going to be completely blocked. So, oh God, hold on, yeah. See, it's just pressing all the buttons up here. So yeah, we can't do that. It also comes into consideration if we want to be using a SSD to record onto as well. Again, this cable isn't going to be able to plug into it. We will have to get some form of like 90-degree USB-C cable to get in here and up through this tiny section. But if you are interested, you can actually use one of Sandmarc's new hybrid mounts. We can actually clamp this into this, and then we can bolt this onto the actual grip up here. Again, we just need to work out what cable we want to use. But if we're filming in the landscape position like this, and then we want to go into the portrait position, then obviously this isn't going to allow it. So if we put the accessory onto the bottom, then we can swivel it up to go into the portrait position. But again, if you've got two accessories, then you're kind of locked to only be able to film in landscape. You won't be able to have two accessories if you want to film in portrait. And I was really pleased to see that they actually used a spring-loaded clamp on here for our phones. And this clamp is really, really strong, and it does hold our phone nice and secure. And I like the fact that they've even got these sort of rubber feet and a rubber back on it, which does help to reduce any risk of scratching on the phone, because obviously this is aluminium, so this could potentially scratch our phones. And they've also got this slight angle on it as well, which basically means that once our phone's in, it's very unlikely going to fall out again. And I know that MagSafe attachments are a lot quicker and easier to put on our phones, like this cheaper one I showed earlier, the Telesin one, but this doesn't give me any confidence, and I wouldn't want to use this in a sort of vigorous way, whereas this strong clamp is definitely going to be far better than a MagSafe attachment, which is just magnetically attached to the back of the phone. So I'm really pleased that they chose to use a clamp like this, and it is nice and secure, but some people might want it to feel more like an actual cage and lock this into position, but there is no way of actually locking that clamp into position. And you can probably guess what my final verdict is going to be, and that is the fact that this is a really well-made piece of kit. It is solid. But functionality-wise, I just feel like it's slightly lacking, and I was quite surprised because I've used so many of Sandmarc products, I've reviewed a lot of them and I still use them to this day. I just wanted a little bit more from them here, like why don't we have a rechargeable battery? And why doesn't that shutter button have a focus, a zoom or a mode button or something to make it feel like an actual camera? The whole point of this is to make it feel more professional, more kind of secure on our hands, and we still have to just use the phone like normal because the actual grip doesn't do anything. It is literally just a grip. But what do you think? Would you pay $140 for one of these? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you Sandmarc for sending me this product, and I really hope to see you here again soon.